Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Wisper. This is our YouTube channel, and I'm going to explain in a moment a little bit about what it is. My co-creator and co-host, unfortunately, couldn't make it today, so I'm going to be taking the reins and conducting the interview myself. So Kirsten is not here, and to Kirsten, we really miss you, and hopefully I fly the flag. So let's see. So for those of you who are here and joining us again, welcome back. If it's your first time, what I'm going to need you to do is look down under your screen and you'll see a subscribe button, you'll see a like button, you'll see a bell. Press all three of them. The subscribe allows you to view our material that we create in the future again. The like button lets us know you like this video. And the bell button means if you have subscribed, you'll get additional notifications when we release new stuff. It's quite important for us. What we've started realizing is that if we want to get our message out there, we need the algorithm that is built into YouTube to function for us, and that's the only way to do it. So please, so that's my little dig at please getting you to subscribe. More importantly, though, you can see that I have two beautiful guests today that have joined me. And the first person, and I'm going to ask Charisse to wave as I introduce her, is Charisse Louw. And the other one is Nicole, and I'm going to try it with the Italian accent, Biondi. So to try and get it as exotic as possible. So, and thank you both for joining us and coming to the Wisper channel. For the viewers who have just tuned in and they're starting to watch the video and they're going, what is this all about? Let me just give you a quick preamble. Wisper was started by Kirsten and myself, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to actually find the definition of what a whisper is. And everybody receives them. Whether it's intuition, whether it's just suddenly knowing the right answer, whether it's suddenly being able to make a decision quicker than you normally would, where it's sometimes just getting that peace that you feel in your heart because you know you're in the right place, or it's even sometimes just when you meet somebody, knowing that you've actually got a connection before you even say a word. All of those could amount to being whispers in one form or another. And every guest that we bring on, that we speak to, has in their own way already experienced the whisper. And what we do in this platform is allow them to be able to share their understanding of it. The fact of the matter is we're dealing in the space of the unknown here. And what we're trying to do is actually try and define it for ourselves and help you maybe define it for yourself as well. The other thing that we're doing as well is we're playing in this space of alternative knowledge. There's a lot of knowledge out there, mainstream kind of knowledge, and we get bombarded by it all the time. This is alternative knowledge, the stuff that you might not be exposed to every day, and we're hoping that you'll find it interesting, that you might get something from it. So for those of you that are new here, welcome to Wisper. And I think rather than carry on, let's get down to the actual question of the day. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with Charisse. I'm going to ask Charisse to just quickly introduce herself. And then while you're introducing yourself and telling us your story, maybe you can share with us what the meaning of the whisper is in your life and how it manifests itself.
Wonderful. Thanks, Rory. Thanks for having me. So I was born into a very religious family, and I know the Bible backwards as a result. And there's this mention of the still small voice, which in Christianity is associated with the Holy Spirit. And here we are as a Holy Trinity in this moment. I do believe in the power and magic of numbers. So for me, although I'm no longer associated with any organized religion, I still respect them tremendously because they are a channel for accessing that. But we all can access it. And I'd like us to try and do it right now by just closing our eyes for a moment. You don't have to, but it helps. so that you're not distracted by the illusion of an external world. And just take a couple of deep breaths in through your nose and sigh out through your mouth. I place my hands on my heart just to remind myself to be heart-centered and to relax and open up in my heart. So taking deep breaths in through the nose, not forcing the breath, just allowing the breath to move down the back of the throat, deep down into the belly. So you feel the belly rise. And on an exhale, you might want to sigh out through your mouth, just to let go of any tension that you're holding in the body. And then paying close attention with such compassion to your lovely alive body, just noticing from the top of your head, rain your attention down like warm rain. It floats down over your head, filters down over your forehead, your eyes and your nose and your cheeks, and at the same time down the back of the head and the ears and down the neck, raining down your compassionate awareness, just tenderly noticing, softly and kindly, noticing what's happening in your shoulders. And as you notice any tension, allowing that tension to resolve itself, just to let go a little bit with the breath. Down the upper arms and the elbows and the lower arms and the wrists and the hands and the fingers. And noticing what's happening in your chest and your upper back and your middle back and your belly and your lower back, and moving down into the buttocks and the groin, the hips, releasing any tension in the pelvis, the thighs, the knees, the lower legs, the ankles, the feet and the toes. And just notice that you're bathed in your kind attention, your patient, tender, loving care. And noticing the breath that's moving gently without having to change it or alter it. You have this golden thread that connects you to everything that lives now, that ever lived, that ever will live. This continuous thread of breath. Your constant support from your first inhale to your last exhale. And just seeing it as that golden light that moves in and out of the nostrils, effortlessly, gently. It's giving you everything that you need in this moment. So feeling completely supported and held. And notice whether you can hear the sound of your own soft, gentle breath moving in and out of your nostrils. And you may notice that this in itself is a whisper. And then once again, scanning your body, just kindly and gently, you'll notice that your body is alive, it's moving. Yes, your breath is moving and your heart is moving and your organs, but there's something else, that subtle, energetic body is moving. And this is a fact of physics. Your atoms are dancing right now, and you might start to feel that vibration, that joyful, energetic dance that you are. And as you pay close attention to those parts of your body that might be quieter, even numb, often there lies a very particular whisper that is yours and yours alone, and it belongs to you, and it's sometimes rooted in your story, which you don't need to unpack, you don't need to re-traumatize, you can just notice it gently and kindly and breathe. Keep coming back to the breath that sustains you and nourishes you. And listen to the whisper that your body, it's full of whispers. It's your guru body, it's your greatest teacher, because it's unavoidable. You're together from the moment you're born till the moment you die. This is the fact of your life, is that you are embodied. And listening to the whisper of your body is the surest way to find peace and wellness. And not listening to the whisper of your body is the surest way to suffer, to be uneasy in your skin. So I'm sure we all just want peace, and it begins with each one of us, and it begins like this, by taking a moment, this very moment, this eternal moment, to be so gentle with yourself, so compassionate, filled with metta. Just soft, melting heart, gently, gently. Notice you can always get softer. You can always let go more. And the breath can become so light and effortless. As whatever sensations arise, they arise, physical, emotional, mental, and they fall away. And this is the law of nature. And it's very beautiful, and it's very comforting. And when you're ready, you take a deep breath into knowing this profound knowing, this eternal truth. And sigh out. And when you're ready, you just gently allow your eyes to open. And see with new eyes this new world that comes to pass when you are centered, present, and in connection with truth, which I love this word whisper because it's the truth. It's whispering to us all the time. Be here now, be here now. Connect with your breath. And it doesn't matter where you are. You can be driving, you can be at work, you can be in the supermarket, you can be slaving in the kitchen, whatever the situation, you can always do this. It doesn't have to take that long. You can just for one moment remember who you really are, which is connected to everything, and it's profoundly powerful and healing.
Wow, thank you very much. So Charisse, I know that you work with a word that is synonymous with kind of getting into things, going with things. It's called flow. Mm-hmm. So maybe you could unpack a little bit of that for us. Is what you just took us through now kind of the foundation of flow? Is it just part of it?
So beautiful question. I found myself at a crossroads, as many of us do in midlife. The 40s are such a wonderful time to wake up to the truth of who you are, and it's almost kind of like what's happened in the world this year in 2020 is kind of like now or never. You get this sense of urgency, and it can swing into anxiety very easily, where you almost feel like you've missed the boat, and that can end up in a nasty midlife crisis, so to speak, where you sort of shed everything, and you know, including relationships. But I found myself at a crossroads that was brought about by some serious trauma, grief, loss on many levels, personal, professional, and it was a difficult passage, make no mistake. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but it brought me to remembering what we all know, which is what I just led us through, the truth of our being, of our magical existence, the simplicity of it, the freedom of dogma, the necessity for just coming back to breath and being in the moment. And then flow, which is what you're referencing, which is slipping into that creative magic, which is what living is, which is we're all here to play and to be joyful in our existence. And we forget. And children know this inherently. And that's why they're so beautiful, because they're just in that moment, generally. And when you see a child who's lost that for whatever reason, it's so painful. And yet most of us adults are walking around with those bruised little children sort of hiding in a corner because we've got much more serious things to do, which is absolute nonsense, but we believe it. And so it rules us, because whatever we believe, as Shakespeare said, nothing is but thinking makes it so. So we need to just come back to the breath. First and foremost, we need to release tension from our body. So in flow, that's what I teach, both in workshops and on retreats. Nicole's joined me in both. And I just try and give people some simple techniques that they can empower themselves, because I don't really believe that we live in an age of gurus. I believe we live in an age of information, where you have all this information and then it's up to you to take ownership of your life, to take responsibility for it, use the tools that are given, and live a delicious life that you enjoy living every moment, not just on holiday, not just on retreats, every moment, this moment right now. Take a breath now, center. No, listen to that whisper. It's telling you every moment what you need to do. And we call it many things, as you said, Rory, inspiration, divine intervention, a friend, well met. The people that show us those loved aspects of ourselves, we call a friend. And those that show us those shadow aspects of ourselves that we haven't loved enough, we call enemy, or we bad other. But all the time, the whisper is telling us to slip into the flow, the divine flow of which we are a part. So the great illusion is that there's any separation at all, that I'm separate from you, that there's an inside and an outside. No, nonsense. It's all ego games. We are in a soup of golden light energy, and this is a fact. Physics has caught up with what the yogis have known for centuries, if not millennia. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you for that.
I could go on, but I want to hear from
I can see that. I want to hear from Nicole. I want Nicole to introduce herself. And then, Nicole, maybe you can also just, how did you get involved with this crazy woman? This obviously fully enlightened crazy woman.
Rory, thank you for the question. Sitting here on this call, I ask myself, no, I'm kidding. Thank you so much for having me. And Charisse, thank you so much for that wonderful opening. It's been quite a long day. And so just having that opportunity to center was just really a blessing and a gift. So thank you. So hello to everybody who's watching. As Rory said, I'm Nicole Biondi. And Rory, when you asked the question about the whisper and what that is for me, the first thing that came to mind was not so much what it is, but when it is. And so what I mean by that, and Charisse, it's so interesting that just in your last sentence, you mentioned the egoic state. And what had come to me when Rory asked the question was that when it is the most for me is when my ego mind is allowed the space to subside. And so when that is for me is often in times of quiet. So for example, this morning I went for a beautiful walk through a green belt, and I looked up and there was the sunlight shining through green leaves and the sound of nature, and it was beautiful, and I heard the whisper. And I felt it at the beginning of this call when Charisse led us through the beautiful meditation. I heard the whisper. When I'm sitting quietly in the morning and I do a practice called morning pages, where I just blurt and I just write whatever's inside me to clear my head, to just get the ego out, that's when I hear it. And so maybe just also to share a little bit of how I came to really being intentional about listening for the whisper before I talk about how I make this crazy person. I think it was at the end of 2014. I'd been working really, really hard, and I had this wonderful job, and it was very fulfilling on many levels, but it was very, very busy. And a big part of my job was to deal with people who had been hurt, and so having to sit with their trauma. And I didn't at that point really ever stop to sit with myself. I just powered through because that's where I come from. She spoke about her upbringing and growing up in a Christian upbringing. I grew up in an upbringing of you just need to get stuff done. And so that's what I was doing. And I went to India for the first time. And I remember sitting on the steps on my very last day, and a little girl whose name is Chetna came up to me. And Chetna and I had this wonderful conversation. And I asked her, what do you want to be, Chetna? What do you want to be when you are big? And she said to me, what do you want to be when you're big? And it cracked me open. And as I did then, I suppressed it. I got in the plane, I came home. And one day, about 2 weeks later, I was going for a run along the Sea Point promenade. Beautiful, you can picture it. It was in the evening, and there was this wonderful sunset. And I was running along, and I'd left my clothes at the gym close by. And at the end of the run, I had to go back into the gym to fetch my clothes. And I didn't have my gym card with me, but all you need to do is give them your ID number. The problem is I couldn't remember my ID number. I couldn't remember anything. I didn't know what it started with. I didn't know what my name was. It was probably the scariest moment of my life. And I won't go into all of the trauma that happened after that, all of the healing. But one of the most important things was that I learned that I needed to find my whisper. I needed to find the spaces where I could breathe, where I could listen, where I could let ego go, essentially. And so one of the practices that I started doing very regularly after that was meditation. And it is the most magical, transformative, it's changed me. And so through this journey, I've started looking at spaces where I can be guided in meditation, because sometimes it's really difficult to get out of blockages, particularly the stubborn ones, particularly those childhood ones, on your own. And on this journey of trying to find a guide for meditation, I found Charisse. Okay. And I went on a wonderful, wonderful weekend away with a couple of days away with at the Temenos retreat. And wow, just magic. So thank you, Charisse, and thank you, Rory, for the question and for the platform. It's wonderful.
No, it's a great pleasure. So my question in terms of you guys are down in Cape Town, and you're surrounded by communities, and there's a lot of like difficulty down in Cape Town. Let's put it that way, difficulty down in Cape Town. In certain respects, it's probably one of the toughest environments to live in South Africa, barring some of the places in Johannesburg. How do you think that what you guys are doing, and I'm going to start with Nicole, how do you think that what you're doing and the change that's happening to you, how's that influencing the community, your family, the people around you? How's it? Do you see an influence? Are you making a difference?
That's such a great question, Rory. And yes, you're absolutely right about the communities that surround us. So I can say, and I'm very grateful to say, that personally I am making a difference. I'm very fortunate in that after the trauma that happened to me happened, I immediately quit my job and I listened to the Wisper and I found, I don't even call it a job, I found a calling, and I now work in early childhood development, and I work for an impact investor, and we invest in early childhood development. So what that really means is that we invest in young children's lives, and particularly children's lives, children who've suffered from trauma and children growing up in these very traumatic situations, trying to set them on a very different life trajectory through investing in a variety of things. And I've been very fortunate to be able to influence the direction that our organization has taken over the last 5 years. So something that we invest in is really bolstering the psychosocial support for caregivers. So for parents and for people who care for children. And so I'm so fortunate that I was able to go through that traumatic experience, which led me to where I am now, where I can honestly say, and I'm so grateful to say that I am making a difference through my work. Through my family connections, I think I can say, or my family relationships, I can say the same thing. I have a 21-year-old daughter, and she's been on this journey with me. And so she's learned certain skills and she's learned certain practices because of my experience. And she, in turn, is sharing it with her communities. And so it goes, right? So the circle grows.
Yeah, that's incredible. I absolutely love that. Thank you for sharing.
Well,
My goodness. Charisse, the same question to you, but obviously there's a bit of an additional layer, because you said we're not living in the age of gurus, but I kind of see the guru energy coming off you. So
I'm so not in. Okay, but it's, I have to take you back to your question, because as you started your question, you said you two live in Cape Town, and I fill in the gap, and my gap was where it's so beautiful, where you have so much access to nature, because Nicole had mentioned her walk in the Greenbelt this morning, and every day, I either walk on the mountain behind my house or on this exquisite Notic beach. So I feel like I live in heaven. So, and then you took it in a whole other direction.
Whole different direction.
And I thought, again, it's all about perspective, because of course I am well aware of the reality of the worst wealth disparity on earth. This is a fact. And poverty dehumanizes, but maybe not as much as wealth. And here we have, with the two cheek by jowl, showing us again this mirror that can be so profoundly uncomfortable, but also so profoundly beautiful, where you look into the other, who's really always you, and you see everything that you need to learn on this journey of living. And South Africa, my home, I love it so much on so many levels. And poverty, I've read such an exquisite book called Motherhood and Melancholia. I'm surrounded by my beloved books. It's somewhere because I've just reorganized. And it's about the slow violence of poverty. It's actually a book I need to give to Nicole, I've just realized. But it's a very powerful unpacking of the trauma that lives in our country. Because just yesterday we had apartheid, and last week we had colonialism, and then, you know, I mean, it's fresh, and there's a lot that we're working through. But as a world, we're in this little spaceship together, traveling through space, and this year has been a year that has tried many people tremendously. And I think primarily because of the delusion of separation. And this work, meditation, mindfulness, it brings you into a true connection with your guru body. If you need a guru, it's your own body. And it's a tough guru, like all good teachers. It never sugarcoats anything. It tells you the truth all the time. So your mind will tell you all kinds of stories, and we believe them. Because it's so good at convincing us. But your body is telling you the truth. So right this moment, once again, there's all this jibber jabber and a screen and distractions. go back into your body. Notice in this moment what it's telling you, and it's telling you the truth. And the way you handle that truth is with compassion, because the truth hurts. So it often manifests as actual pain in your body. And the more you ignore it, the greater the scream. It turns from a whisper to a full-blown scream. And until you learn moment to moment to listen to the whisper and to nurture it tenderly and gently, you will have to keep facing the scream in the form of terrible illness and suffering, or the mirror, external violence, things manifesting in your life, as Nicole so beautifully illustrated for us. She had it brought to her, as India does. I've had that same experience in India. The karma is intense, like instant karma. You think a thing, it manifests. It's constantly inviting you to wake up. So if you don't mind, can we just listen to my Tibetan bowl, which is a manifestation of that eternal universal sound, the Om sound. And this one is an F key, which is the heart chakra, which is where I love to go home to. Because if we all come home to our hearts, to get back to your question, there's no issue. There's no issue. You cannot actually be angry. You cannot be violent if you come back into your heart. There is only love. There's only connection. There's only oneness. There's only peace and beauty and joy and all the good that there is in this world. And trust me, there's way more good. So I'm just going to gong it for us, and then breathe into the sound and into your heart. Place your hand on your heart. It's a lovely reminder of that whisper, of that purpose of living, that it's there with you like the breath from the beginning to the end. So breathing into that knowing, closing your eyes, softening in your body, coming home to your heart. So another tool. I mean, I'm not the guru, though. These things exist. They're in the world. You can get an app.
Thank you for that. That was hilarious. That was great advice. Thank you. You get meditation apps as well.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, go for it. And beautiful, free Dharma talks, people uplifting us and reminding us of our true nature and of our connection. And I think that's what we need to feed ourselves. We need to water, as my favorite teacher of the moment, Thich Nhat Hanh, the Vietnamese Buddhist master. I just adore him. He's so old. He's the same age as my granny, which I also think there's no such thing as coincidence. I love the connections. And he says, water the good seeds. Just keep watering the good seeds. And again, that comes back to your question. That's how we help, is in ourselves. We water the good seeds. And then, as Nicole wisely said, all our relations sort themselves out. So if we can be the change, which has become such a cliche, but that's it. Yeah, when you go into whatever you have to do with this kind of mindfulness, centered in your breath, in your heart, whatever you're doing, whether it be the most mundane thing or a really difficult situation, trust me, the situation resolves itself and all becomes a meditation. It all becomes samadhi, bliss. It's powerful.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for that. Nicole, I'm going to end off with you. And my one question to you is going to be, because Charisse has given us a lot of good advice, solid advice. And I just wanted If you have one thing from the experiences that you've had from India all the way up until now, and obviously trying to find out what you're going to be when you grow up, because I don't think that that's just one step. I think that's a journey that we're on for our lives. If there's one thing that you had to distill out of that, what would that like almost nugget of wisdom be that you could leave for our viewers?
That's a really great question, like all of your questions, Rory. So thank you for it. I think the thing that I keep coming back to, and Charisse will probably smile when I speak about it because she's heard me speak about it with her, is perspective. So one of my biggest realizations along this journey is that we can choose our perspective. So I'll illustrate it with a story and something that happened on Charisse's last gathering. So there we were, let me paint the picture so that you can imagine it with me. A beautiful, quiet evening. We're sitting in the sacred space called the Well at Temenos. There's the sound of dripping water, candlelight, and breathing of the people seated for evening meditation. When all of a sudden, from the garden, comes the sound of children shouting and fighting and ruining my peace. And I really struggled, and I sat there, and I won't share with you the swear words that were, but you can imagine them. This is a family platform, but you can imagine. And I was really angry, and it took me away from that peace. It took me away from the whisper, and I was just angry. And the next morning in meditation, it came to me, and it's come to me many times, but it really came to me that was my perspective. That all that was two children in the garden, and I chose to label what was going on as an irritation. It was just sound. It was just children. And so there's one thing that I've learned, and I think I'd really like to, I know I'd like to encourage everybody to do, is to whenever you have a really strong reaction to something, to just check your perspective. Because all it is what it is. Whatever you're feeling, whatever you're thinking about it, is your label. Step back, either accept the label, go, interesting, or just try not to label at all.
Sure. Charisse, I can see you want to add to that.
Oh no, I just love it. I'm just affirming, nodding my head off.
Okay, wonderful.
So the things I make people do on my retreats is talking and listening as a meditation. We try and do everything as a meditation at some point. So eating as a meditation, bathing yourself as a meditation. You know, every single act is a meditation. It's an opportunity to meditate. So I try and have them do a deep listening exercise, which is nigh impossible for people because of this need to affirm, and it's an ego impulse as well, because it's that little bit of the people pleaser in us that also makes us give ourselves away, especially us girls. Not to gender stereotype, but it's very strong in women, where we have this need to kind of take care of everyone, and even in our nodding and our and so in the talking meditation, I have them sit in pairs, and while the one talks, the other must just any kind of need to nod or smile or interject, and it's one of the most difficult of all of the meditations I've seen for people to break those cultural habituations, you know, like that need to kind of affirm one another. And I think it comes from a good place often, because we just want each other to know that we're heard and seen, but we can trust that, like we can really more and more into trust. Yeah.
It definitely comes from the time when we were sitting around the fireplace and someone was telling a story, and we kind of got in. The only way we could get engaged was to nod and affirm. So I think it's a very, very old habit that human society has inbred in us. So absolutely agree with that. I
Although
unfortunately,
the fire, we like gaze into the fire, and the fire is a manifestation of our own fiery hearts.
yes,
So there's actually, like, around the fire is lovely. It allows people actually to do that, to be more, and not to have to project so much, which is quite lovely.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And again, it comes back to using anything around you. So next time you're at a braai, stare into the fire. It could become part of a meditation for yourself. Use the tools that are around you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm cognizant of the time, and
Yeah.
I think we're going to have to repeat this at some point and get you guys back. Choose
With
a
pleasure.
different topic and just explore it together,
Yeah, with pleasure.
because this has been absolutely wonderful. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And to the viewers, yeah, absolutely wonderful, incredible woman. And I'm going to have in the description below all the details that they want to share. Obviously, we keep their privacy if they want it as well. But you'll be able to find out more about them in the description below. And please, this is Wisper. This is the caliber of the individuals that we're interviewing. Superb, wonderful, just loving, full of heart, just kind individuals, and just with incredible insights into the reality that's around us. And I don't know about you as the viewer, but I've been here the entire time. My entire energy has changed. I'm in a completely different space. I had a tough day myself, but that's left behind just because of the conversation that I've had. So thank you, both of you. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Charisse. And
Lovely. Thank you.
yeah. And to the viewers as well, again, please don't forget to subscribe and like, and go check out the rest of our stuff if you enjoy it. And we'll catch you on the next Wisper.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.